Hello and welcome back to YCS Utrecht, the 200th YCS. We are here in round number 8.
European edition.
European edition, yeah. We should put that on at the start of it every time.
Need to get approval for that. Can't be spending time on this changing titles.
Round number 8. Usually this would be the last round, where Ollie would tie his tie around his head or something. But
well, don't spoil all the surprises.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, for you guys, because of the huge number of players, we're going to be going one more round today, followed by 3 rounds tomorrow, and then a top 64 cut for good measure.
Yeah.
Which I have a pretty good idea who's the winner after that.
Yeah, plenty of rounds. So this round, just as every other round, we've been having a really interesting feature match. No, wrong words. We found a really interesting feature match, and this round is no different. But we always like to glance over, see if the players can hear us. The answer is no. And we have a Pendulum deck
Versus Sky Striker.
Both of these guys are still undefeated in the tournament.
XO, both of them.
Yeah.
Well, that should be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so Pendulum still not gone away.
It does horrible, horrible things to your opponent, and as long as it's able to do those horrible things, it will keep popping up.
Yeah, just like Burning Abyss.
Yes, although it did lose a number of Electromites on this last Forbidden Limited list, so you'd think that would hinder it a lot, but the chances are, because people just saw it completely off the radar, it's probably going uncontested.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's not make you guys wait any longer. Let's get over to the table and
come on, let's see some duels.
All right, guys, we are also ready to get our game on for round. It says round number 7 here.
I think it's round 8. Yeah.
It is definitely round 8. I'm going to change that very soonish, but most important part, of course, is the player names: Pascal Kim, Sky Striker Pure, Sekias Shaw, Pendulum Magician from the UK.
Indeed.
Do you know him?
A bit.
A bit. Okay. What does that mean? What do you make of him?
I don't know him that well to make anything of him. I know he's from the UK, so I should support him, right?
Yeah, you should.
All right, then.
It's fine. So you're rooting for Sekias?
I'm rooting for, it's a Pendulum deck.
It's a Pendulum deck, okay.
We've got Sky Striker, which appears to be our stock opponent. We have interesting deck versus Sky Striker. It seems to be the theme.
It seems to be
different
the theme
deck.
of the day.
Sky Striker is our opponent of choice.
It's going to be interesting to see if it's the same in the other regions, actually, if everybody's having that same story for this weekend. Is there anything that pops out if you're looking at the deck list? Is there something?
I mean, the Sky Striker deck looks very much like the other Sky Striker deck list. So we've got this trendy tech Eagle Booster at 3 again. This sort of I'm going to play this Eagle Booster and you're not going to kill me. And then Sky Striker, they always have lots of cards. So if you don't kill them, they have lots of cards, and that's quite bad. So you need to kill them.
Okay, you're learning some new things here. If you have lots of cards, that's not good.
That's not good. The Pendulum deck, honestly, it looks very much like what Pendulum decks used to look like before they lost 2 copies of Electromite.
All right.
I don't know how that means it's going to work. I mean, Pendulum decks, the 3 when you were using more than 1 Electromite, you were going pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So you could still win a lot of games just on the first Electromite.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, I assume it's just going to work just like old Pendulum used to. I don't really see it should work any different. It looks very, very similar, the lists, to old, like what Pendulum lists looked like last format, and I don't know why the main deck would have changed that much, just because the extra decks changed.
All right.
So
these guys mentioned it. Both of these guys are undefeated at the moment. We might be able to bring you a quick look at the top tables at the start of this round. These are all undefeated players, of course. That's why they are at the very top of the field. And we do see a lot of Sky Striker. However, there's a Burning Abyss deck on table number 3, True Draco on table number 2. Then a lot of Sky Striker again, and table number 5 is already our feature match for this round. So it's looking like Sky Striker has a lot of representatives, and also towards the top of the field, basically. They're climbing that mountain.
Indeed.
But every once in a while we see something else.
There's quite a lot of different decks, yeah?
Yeah.
It does seem to be, something. Sky Striker, yeah?
And also a lot of players that we remembered from last events, like Temis Kitsis, who we also featured this
today,
weekend. Yeah, Jay Quincy, of course. That's pretty interesting feature match, actually, these 2 guys. And Omar Mahmoud, we've had him in the feature match before. Alessio Giordani is a name that rings a bell for me, at least.
Indeed.
Then if we move a little bit further down, I think we got a UK player on every one of these tables of 5 players each. Here we have Tom Rose, of course, with Burning Abyss. And then also Connor Sue. And he's playing against Chingun Ariunbat, who is actually from Mongolia, and I have to admit I had to look up the flag. It's not one where I'm like, oh yeah, I know this one.
I'll grant you that. Didn't know that one either.
All right, so let's just look at 5 more tables, if we can, to round up the top 20 players, or top 20 tables.
Top 40 players.
Top 40 players, there we go. Although that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, Ish.
All right, so you have a good idea. There's a lot of Sky Striker towards the top of the field, but every once in a while something else pops in.
Still a fair few True Jake. I mean, it's kind of decks you'd expect to be around.
Yeah. And I think with that, guys, we are indeed ready. Those 2 players are definitely ready. They can't wait to get their game on. So let's kick it off with round number 8, Pascal Kim versus Zacchaeus Shaw. All right, here we have them. Pascal on the left, Zacchaeus on the right. Quick handshake, double checking with the judges that they are allowed to go first. And then
one of them's going to go first, yeah? It looked like, I think Zacchaeus drew his cards first, so maybe that means he's going first.
That could be an indication, yeah.
There's no obvious one person's going to choose to go second here, so...
It's not like the rounds before, yeah.
So we're just going to have to wait and see who's going to start and what's in their hand. Pascal has got ahead on the cards in hand, though. It looks like a fairly pleasant hand for the Sky Striker deck.
And interestingly enough, it seems like we got a couple of guys in the chat that know these 2 guys and they are rooting for them. So I'm gonna do a very quick poll here. Prepare that. Pascal Kim.
Are we going to find out who's going first? It looks like the Pendulum player is going first. YCS. So Foolish Burial is, well, it's a great card to start with in any deck, to be honest. Pendulum's target of choice is the Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, which can special summon itself, and then add another Supreme King card from the deck to the hand. That's normally Supreme King Gate 0, which is a 0 scale, which was one of the new tech that came out for Pendulum a while ago. It used to be 1, but now it's like, now you can even Pendulum summon level 1 monsters with your 0 scale. Yeah, it does a great job. It's like a free, you want to get Pendulum monsters on the field at the beginning with to link summon, so it opens up extra zones for you to Pendulum into, and it gets you a free card, which is pretty great.
And we got a very even distribution when it comes to voting for who's going to win, although we don't have that many votes in.
It's changing pretty rapidly.
Yeah, Zacchaeus at the moment has a few more fans.
I mean, it's a bit unfair because they can see how the game's going.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun. Yeah.
So I think the Pendulum have to be a little bit more nervous now, because normally you would just throw out your Electromite, and then if it died, you could just make another one. But now if it dies, you can't.
Sounds like a sound strategy if you ask me.
That's your luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it gets Ogred, it gets Ogred. It's gone. You can't just... I mean, it's quite hard to make another one.
Am I reading this right? Does he have 4 negates here?
4 negates? Who's got 4 negates?
Zacchaeus. He's getting there, right?
I mean, he might. It depends what board he builds from his hand. I haven't played enough with Pendulum to know where this is going to end. I know it's a good hand. It's not been interrupted, so it should do well.
Yeah.
As for whether 4 negates, we'll see. So it's fairly standard for Pendulum to want to end on absolute... no, not absolute. Odd Eye's Vortex Dragon, which is one very good negate. So we can see that's normally summoned via Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon, which is a rank 7 XYZ. So you normally get the Gate 0, which has already found its way into the extra deck, and you use the effect of Harmonizing Magician to summon Janky Magician from your deck, which is another level 7.
Yep.
And then probably either use that Harmonizing Magician, link it away for something, or you can use it to synchro maybe Psyframe Rod Omega, which is not a negate, but it takes a card out of your opponent's hand.
It's something that is going to throw another stone in your opponent's track.
Indeed. So, yeah. I don't know how many negates it's going to end with.
But a lot.
But it's going to be a decent... It's a decent opening. I'm not sure the Pendulum player can ask for much more, uninterrupted turn 1 as well, which is pretty nice.
Another question in the chat was how many cards is the Pendulum deck playing? Is it a 60-card Pendulum?
The Pendulum is 41, I think.
Oh no, sorry, you got the UK deck list, which is
41.
Oh, sorry, that is the deck. So Pendulum 41.
It's an almost 40. He's almost done it.
Yeah.
But he's not quite made 40.
But I think the question was more pointing at is he going to go to 60 cards or something? Is he going
that's some people like the 60-card deck.
Yeah.
But
do you? Don't sound like
I don't like it for Pendulum so much, no. So this is interesting. So he's chosen to make the Cairn Gorgon as opposed to go for... well, I suppose he didn't have the option, actually. I don't think he had access to a Harmonizing Magician. So he didn't have a chance. But he has got a lot more cards in his hand. So
not too bad.
If you don't kill the Scales of Pendulum, then they keep cards in their hand. Cairn Gorgon is known to be a particularly sticky card for Sky Strikers to deal with, because a lot of the Sky Striker removal targets. So you've got Widow Anchor, typically to try and get over your opponent's board, which obviously targets, and you can change the target of that with Cairn Gorgon, or Afterburner. And you've also got the... so, I mean, I don't know if you call it a negate, and I don't know if you call it two negates, because it can be used twice in the same turn, maybe. And then you have the Mythical Beast Jackal, which can negate a monster effect. So it's possibly two negates if you're being generous. However, one of those is going to get taken out by the multi-roll. So you can use multi-roll to prevent your opponent from responding to your spell cards. So one guy that might like to respond to your opponent's spell cards very much is the Cairn Gorgon, but it's not going to be able to do that anymore because of multi-roll.
Right. So lots of card interactions is what you're saying.
Indeed. I
With
mean,
a
the
lot more
multi-roll
words.
the multi-roll is quite cool. It gets the things you can do with it become much more interesting when there's a lot more cards flying around, I think. So when I think in the Sky Striker versus Goki, you're not really very interested in it because they're not going to negate your spell cards. You're not really. That's not the thing that's going to happen. The thing that's going to happen is you're going to. You know, they're going to kill you, or then you know they're going to end with this huge board.
Right.
They're not going to be bothered about negating your spell cards because your spell cards won't be able to deal with your board. So it doesn't really matter. Whereas in slower matchups, where you know you can have all these neat little interactions in the Sky Striker mirror match, you know, meaning that they can't Eagle Boost to your Widow Anchor, or they can't. You know, they can't respond to your Twin Twisters. So if you activate multi-roll, all of a sudden, if they've got a face-down shared ride, they might be scared that it's going to die to Twin Twisters or something like that. So they have to shotgun all of these cards, which is not really ideal.
I'm getting the feeling that you could write a book about this matchup alone.
About multi-roll?
Yeah, or about this one card, yeah. One of the two.
So we can see here what tried to happen.
So
is that... yeah, Zekias tried to use Cairn Gorgon on Widow Anchor, and Pascal said no. That's not allowed. My card says no.
It's very fair to just say no.
Just be like, can't do that. Sorry, can't respond.
So the question is, even if he is able to break the field or break the board to be in full lingo here, is he going to be able to get rid of the Scales? He does have a Twin Twisters.
He's got a Twin Twisters. That does get rid of the Scales, but it does look like Zekias has got a pair more in his hand.
So he won't even mind too much.
He won't mind too much, no. But I mean, having said that, I think clearing the Electromite is quite good, because you want to get rid of something providing them link zones. Because those Pendulum used to be this deck where every turn you could Pendulum summon out all these monsters back again, and you would kill them, you'd summon them back again, and that was pretty difficult to deal with. But now, if you don't have any link monsters, you can only summon one from the extra deck, which is not really very many.
Nah. Not really that impressive.
Okay, so the Twin's going to be played here. I mean, it's clearing the Scales, but I think more importantly, it's putting the extra spell in grave. Extra spells, in fact, 2 spells in grave. But enough to draw a card off engage. So it's worth doing it earlier just to draw the card off engage if you figure you're going to do it at some point.
Does he have a way of getting rid of Electromite?
Yes. So he's activating engage now, and engage can search either Afterburner or Widow Anchor, depending on what he prefers the feel of. So he can just search Afterburner just to kill it, or Widow Anchor to take it and link it away. Or he might just leave it up, because currently the zones being pointed to by Electromite are full. I get the feeling he's going to want to get rid of it.
So people are about to find out at the moment that you're actually Tom Payne. They're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Who is this? Yeah, but funnily enough, we hear that every single time. Everybody whoever's commentating with me is the best commentator ever. I think that's just a way of bashing me, to be honest.
It's probably a compliment to you. You make other people look good.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
I'm not convinced, to be honest.
Okay, so I hope if he... Yeah, and Ngirsu's excellent here because it doesn't target.
So yeah, how did we end up here is one of the questions that we could be asking. Because it looked like Sekai's had the perfect opening hand. Still got 3 monsters on the board.
It is a strong opening board,
but
multi-roll is quite an interesting card in this situation because it prevents Ken Gorgon, which would normally make your board very hard to deal with. It just says no. It just straight away says no to it. Yeah, yeah. It just nullifies it completely. I mean, it's a 2-card investment, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to use the multi-roll, which isn't going to do anything else that turn until the end phase at least, and you have to send a card to the graveyard. But if you've got those cards to use, and now he's going to get the cards back off multi-roll, so he's going to get 2 back in the end phase, then it seemed like a pretty good investment.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, indeed.
It's paying dividends.
It is paying dividends. I mean, I would say this is definitely... It's normally, if Sky Striker... If the game goes on a couple of turns, you expect the Sky Striker to take it.
But we have to point out something, because we've had Sky Striker on the stream a million times, also on the chat. There was almost never a situation where Sky Striker was able to play a million cards and then end up with just 3 cards on the field and 1 card in hand.
We had Sky Striker. It deals with cards, but I mean the Pendulum guy. He did have a big board, right?
Yeah, I know. But like generally speaking, every time Sky Striker was able to just do its thing, they ended up with 4 cards in hand or more. So even if you were able to then break their board again, they would just come back and come back and come back.
That's normally the turn after it's set up, I would say. So normally Sky Striker has a turn to set up, and now next turn he might resolve like multiple engages for extra draws, and that's when you just seem to have infinite cards. However,
Sekai's is a bit under pressure in that sense.
Yeah, but we're going to see. So he knows that. Well, he doesn't know about that Ghost Ogre in hand, but he knows that other than that, Pascal's only got the 1 interruption,
right,
being the Widow Anchor. And if he can force out the Widow Anchor, then he can pop the... he'll be free to try and destroy the engage, maybe with a Nightmare Phoenix, and then be hopeful that Pascal's not got anything to do next turn.
Right. So
and we can see a big Pendulum summon here.
It's basically pray for Pendulum, if you're a fan of the archetype at this point.
It's not that much of a prayer. I'd be reasonably happy with the Pendulum situation at the moment. It's always quite good to be able to Pendulum summon a big board of monsters. As we're seeing here, that's a lot of monsters. So an attack here forces out the Widow Anchor. And maybe Pascal's just checking whether you can use both the scale effect of Oath Dragon, which has been used, and the monster effect to add back a Pendulum card. Or is it a Magician? I think maybe it's got to be a Magician. And he's added back Harmonizing Magician.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just checking 3 things at the same time right now, which is hard to believe, I know, but...
So it's a bit awkward here because you've got 6 monsters, but if you try and attack, then Widow Anchor's just going to take the biggest one.
Yeah.
And then you won't do any damage.
If the opponent is smart.
I would hope. I would hope that's what would happen.
If he's having a stroke or something.
If he's having a bad day.
Yeah, he might be picking something else.
But you see, the Pendulum do get access to all these cool extra deck cards, and I believe that extra deck card just ends the game right here. Because it can just negate the Widow Anchor, and there's nothing to stop Sekai's just attacking for game. So Norito...
He's the moral leader, so...
maybe it's not game, actually, because if he activates the Widow Anchor, then he activates the Norito, and then Ogre gets changed. I'm not sure that is enough damage now without the Norito.
Right.
Because none of those monsters have more than 2,000 attack. However, I'd still be fairly happy if I was...
It's going to be a very big swing.
I mean, you want to win the game this turn, obviously. However, Sky Striker is not going to end with that many cards.
No, definitely not. Like, I don't see any way how Pascal Kim has completely turned the tables at the moment.
Well, he has got an engage face down.
Yeah, but 1 engage does not...
It does a lot.
Game win make. Is that the saying?
I mean, it might be, but I don't think it's true.
Yeah.
Engage is the king of comebacks. 1 engage, you draw another, you search a Ray, draw a card, summon Ray, get back Kagari.
Yeah.
Get Kagari, add engage, draw another card. That's all. You've suddenly gone from you've now got 3 cards? 4 You've now got 4 cards.
You're definitely in a better spot than before.
With the 1 engage. That's a lot of cards. However, Tornado Dragon says no very much to that plan.
There we go. See?
So I was thinking Phoenix, but I think Tornado Dragon actually does a far better job.
Yeah, so
because it pops the engage and the...
That is it, yeah.
and another card.
Interestingly enough, he did actually show the card that he drew. Not a very big deal here.
What was the card?
It was a trap.
It was a Mind Crush. I wouldn't necessarily...
Would you
I think
reveal the Mind Crush?
Mind Crush is a standard card. I mean, it's a popular card.
Yeah.
But it's not like a card that you know they're going to be playing.
And
So maybe you don't want to reveal the Mind Crush.
It's
but
also not a card that you necessarily play in your main deck. Very often you see that in the side deck.
It's a card that you wouldn't be surprised to see at all. However, it's not a card that you are expecting will be there every game.
Yeah.
So we saw the power there of Pendulum to be able to just... The one Widow Anchor doesn't stand up to 5 monsters being Pendulum summoned.
Well, who does?
So normally, like, well, there are cards which do, like
but
Torrential Tribute, or
Ooh,
which we did see earlier.
Yeah, we did see earlier. I was about to say. Good. We're getting to the point where you're doing the callbacks to the
There was
earlier
a
matches.
dimensional barrier earlier.
This whole weekend for me is the evolution of Tom Payne as a commentator. It's super interesting to watch. Yesterday he couldn't even stand without shaking his legs, and today he can go into monologues for 10 minutes and explain our stakes. So we're really seeing you growing up on screen.
Thanks, Fowley.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. I think next show you can just do it on your own. We're gonna have you there basically.
All right.
At the end of the day. I mean all of that as a compliment, of course. Yeah. Sometimes I have to clarify what I'm saying.
I didn't think I saw Zekias do anything to his side deck. I might be wrong.
Yeah, he made it seem like he's going to do something with it. But
I mean, I don't know. I feel like Denko Sekka is a card that is sided in when you go second with Pendulum.
I love that you're making these sentences that we can just cut them off in the middle and they still make sense and are hilarious when you say Denko Sekka is a card, full stop.
Denko Sekka is a card.
Yeah, and it's like already a very strong statement.
It is a strong statement.
Yeah, not everything can be a card.
Is a great card.
Yeah, I agree. There is no doubt in my mind.
There is I love the game plan with Denko Sekka. It's normal summon Denko Sekka, activate some Pendulum Scales, Pendulum summon some monsters, and attack for game. I think that is the game plan with Denko Sekka.
It is, indeed. All right, so who are you favoring in the second duel
Who
now
am I
that
favoring
Zacchaeus has
in
taken
the
the first?
second duel? I'm expecting Sky Striker to choose to go first, probably. And then I'll go with this. Oh no, he's letting the Pendulum player go first. So we do have the Evenly Matched, and Evenly Matched is quite a nasty card against Pendulum, because it banishes the scales as well as... So you build up a big board, and the nice thing about Pendulum is you can say, you have to kill my monsters, and then if you kill all my monsters, then I've still got my Pendulum Scales and I can summon more monsters next turn. But Evenly Matched actually does both in one. So I think it's a good side deck option against Pendulum. And he's also got the option to side in Infinite Impermanence, anything to deal with that turn 1 Electromite.
So it seems like the Twitch chat is actually rooting for Pendulum Magician, just because it's the underdog.
Yeah?
They are funny like that. And also... And yeah, we got another good opening hand actually. Here.
Indeed, he's got the Star Pendulum Graph. Star Pendulum Graph is a bit of a risky card because it requires you to be able to use other cards in your hand in order to make use of it. But when you do make use of it, it replaces itself immediately, and then it's just sat there for you to use again next turn. So it's kind of like this. It gives you it doesn't give you a +1 immediately. However, next turn you get...
it's like threatening or putting your opponent under pressure in a sense.
Yeah. It's a bit like, I don't know. I was going to say Zodiac Barrage, but I feel like that would be unfair to Barrage because Barrage is a lot better.
There was this card where you put counters on.
Shard of Greed?
Shard of Greed, for example. It's a bit like that.
But this replaces itself immediately.
Yeah.
And then next turn it will get him a +1.
There's a bit more pressure on it. Or like a Future Fusion. How about that? Talk about a callback.
I think the point of Future Fusion was to send your deck to the graveyard, which you got to do immediately. You used to get to do immediately.
Nobody used it like that.
Nobody ever.
No, ever.
The entire plan was to fusion summon. I mean, you used to Future Fusion for Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, and then when it came out, it killed the Future Fusion and killed itself.
Yeah, that's so unfair towards the Future Fusion. All right. So again, we're seeing a pretty good opening for Zacchaeus. He doesn't have any hand traps. His opponent Pascal apparently... we're not 100% sure.
I mean, there wouldn't really have been that much of a time to use any hand traps. Yeah, there is an Ash.
There is an Ash, yeah.
So there's not really been that much to Ash. This is one of the things people liked quite a lot about Pendulum last format, was that it wasn't too heavily bothered by hand traps. Yeah. Because you can just summon all the monsters in your hand and some of them from your extra deck.
So sometimes your opponent had like 5 dead cards in his deck just because your deck didn't mind them.
They're not dead, but they're not
Yeah.
so good as they are against a deck like Goki, for example, where they can be. So generally, I guess as a rule of thumb, if something is digging through the deck, it's more vulnerable at least to Ash, right? Whereas Pendulum don't use their deck so much. So we can see as evidence of that Zacchaeus is happy to run 3 full copies of Pot of Desires. He's got no issue really banishing cards from his deck.
That wasn't always the case with Pendulum.
It wasn't, but I think it has been the case ever since Pot of Desires has been a card. I think as long as it's been out. I mean, there used to be cards in the Pendulum used in the deck, like
sometimes there were cards
the Purple Mages and the Performer Pals.
Oh, but when you had the monkey board and stuff that you didn't want to lose.
They've never really existed with Pot of Desires, so I think as long as Pot of Desires has been around, it's been played in Pendulum.
Okay, fair enough. So again, Norito, the moral leader, is hitting play, and this time at the very first turn.
That's 1 negate.
And then we see Electromite again.
A very disappointingly low number of negates.
Yeah, I'm sure he's heartbroken over this.
I know. I'm interested what was ashed. I think it might have just been the Pendulum. It might have just been the Electromite draw that was ashed, which seems quite underwhelming. So as we said, like the Ash is normally a card which, you know, can stop other decks dead in their tracks, but against Pendulum, it just stopped him draw 1 card after he'd already summoned 5 monsters.
Yeah. Just learned that a couple of cards cannot be displayed for some reason. Ash, Eagle Booster, and Afterburner are all in Pascal's hand as well.
Well, Ash is not in his hand anymore.
Not anymore, yeah. But just so you guys know, these are the Electrum draw was actually the target for the Ash.
Indeed. So we've got Norito to stop multi-roll kind of spoiling the fun of Ken Gorgon like it did last game. So it'll be interesting to see how Pascal tries to deal with it.
Yeah. He's got ways out because apparently I think Zacchaeus could have gone quite a bit bigger, couldn't he?
I know, because if you Pendulum summon before you make a Link monster, then you only have you've only got the cards in your hand and 1 card from the extra deck, so it's not the same as it used to be.
It used to be better.
But it's fine. I don't see anything wrong with keeping a couple of cards in your hand. So multi-roll is really a card you want to pick up because it just forces out a negate by itself immediately.
Yep.
Because if it's not negated, then it sends something to the graveyard and then none of your other spells can be negated. So you might as well just negate it straight away.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it shuts off all your other negations. So that's probably what we're going to see happen. He's just going to negate it straight away. There we go.
Yep. You're back in the fortune teller business.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really fortune telling.
Nah. It's a science. We've got to go that far.
Maybe it's a science, yeah. I'm using evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they are doing. I told you earlier, they look at the ley lines in the hand and stuff. And then,
Indeed.
Yeah, that's how it works.
So he's just reading the Ken Gorgon very carefully, and I think the answer is no, it's not going to stop you playing Engage.
That is the same conclusion that he ended up with. So now he's going to
I mean, it might have been what does he want to search, and the answer is, in fact, another multi-roll. The first multi-roll did such a good job.
It did.
He's going to search it out again.
And he's also get to draw a card.
Multi-roll combines particularly well with Area 0, because it can send Area 0 to the graveyard to use the effect to stop your opponent responding to your spell cards, and then that triggers Area 0 to special summon a Ray from your deck.
Didn't we see that in one of the earlier feature matches as well?
Yes.
Where we even gave the player credit for not really inventing the play, but coming up with that play.
I think it's a fairly standard play.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the...
No, I just
Sky Striker don't actually have that many tools for putting a load of monsters on the field, and this is one of them, is the Area 0 summoning a Ray from the deck.
Alright, so here...
So that is indeed what's going on.
And this time around, Sky Striker is more in its usual role of like amassing
I mean, this
cards.
looks quite similar to last game.
Yeah, but he's got more cards in hand.
But yeah, now the Engage is being resolved this turn, which makes a big difference, because now he's going to have... Whereas last time you didn't just get this... So this Engage is effectively 2 extra cards that he's got. If he'd just drawn the Sky Striker cards that he'd searched off Engage, he wouldn't have drawn 2 cards like he's going to do with Engage.
Right. So at the moment, again, Zacchaeus Shah with lots of monsters on the field, but one by one, Pascal Kim is getting rid of them.
Sky Striker does do 1 by 1. So I assume Kagari picked up Engage. I can't see the other card that was drawn. If it was a good enough card, then it might be that he can activate a couple of, you know, maybe a Widow Anchor and something, and possibly try and put game on the board this turn. But in all honesty, I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone OTK someone with Sky Strikers. So if he does, he should probably get an award. And he's just activated Upstart Goblin, so he's probably not going to try an OTK.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I got this. I
think with Sky Striker, you're more, that's not really the plan. The plan is just to answer their board, let them do something next turn, maybe stop it a bit, and then answer their board again. Apparently, Upstart Goblin reduces your opponent's life points to 1,000, rather than give them 1,000 life points.
Yeah, I was just double checking because I couldn't see the card at first. I thought he might have sided it in, which would have been the most ridiculous thing, having an Upstart Goblin in your side deck.
I can't really see a reason for that.
No.
No, Upstart Goblin is definitely a card for the main deck.
Yeah. It's one of the targets that you want to side out most of the time, when you don't really know what else.
Yes, that is something people used to do, but in Sky Striker, it's just a good card because it just puts a spell in your graveyard for nothing.
Yeah.
Just replace itself, puts a spell in your graveyard, and gets you closer to that magic 3 spells. So you can just use, to start drawing cards, or using Widow Anchor to steal cards, or just generally making all of your spells better.
So Pascal is still not quite done with this gigantic turn.
No, he's not. So what do we think is his plan to Link Summon? I should probably be able to guess here, but I'm not going to.
That's okay.
It's a Ningirsu.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Would you have guessed that? No.
I was guessing. I was thinking Unicorn, but I think Ningirsu is just better. It's got more attack points.
So we're back to old school gaming, where you want to have the monster with the most attack points.
Well, they do. It does effectively the same thing. It's going to get rid of a card, and it's going to do one better than that because, well, a Unicorn you have to discard a card to get rid of a card. Ningirsu you have to send a card on your field to the graveyard to get rid of a card. But in this case, he's going to take the Naruto and then send it with Ningirsu to then get rid of the scale. So it's going to leave Zacchaeus with only the card in his hand,
which is a Wisdom Eye Magician, yeah.
So we can see him. It's not perfect. He's not going to be completely out of place because he's going to be able to activate the Wisdom Eye next turn, use its scale effect.
Oh. So much for that.
Possibly. So now, the Oath Dragon's gone. Yeah. So yes, that was wrong. He's not going to be able to do that unless he draws another.
But credit where credit is due. Like Pascal Kim really going through the motions here.
No, that was
just picking apart one by one all of the cards in his opponent's side.
It's quite difficult to know what the ideal avenue is for getting rid of your opponent's board. I mean, you can definitely do it with Sky Striker, and then you have to figure out what the most efficient way is going to leave you with the most resources.
Right.
And this has done a good job, and it's done a good enough job for
Zacchaeus
to
forcing him to take the concession in that second game. So now it is 1-1 between Pascal Kim with Sky Striker and Zacchaeus Shaw with Pendulum Magician. Crowd is a bit asleep today. There's like no reaction whatsoever. And I was like, yeah, okay, we get to see another game. I guess that's cool.
Yeah, I guess that's good.
And again, we're looking at the side decks. And this time it's going to be Pascal who can decide who's going to go first. Is he want to go
I think
first?
Actually Zacchaeus gets to decide who goes first.
That's a very good point. I stand corrected. Does he want to go first?
I don't know. It depends. He might plan to, or he might plan to go second. He's got cards in his side deck, to me, which indicate go second, try and just flood the board and attack the game. Because if you don't expect your opponent to have 3 spells in their graveyard for Widow Anchor, then you can just Pendulum summon a load of monsters, and Sky Striker don't really have the tools to stop you just attacking them.
Yeah, they're missing a Waboku.
Indeed, they're missing a Waboku, but they don't end with an impressive board of monsters. So if you had an impressive board of monsters, then your opponent just summoning a load of monsters and attacking. I mean, it might be able to kill your board, but it won't. It won't end in 8,000 damage.
Right. So
Whereas Sky Striker tend to end with a fairly minimal monster board.
We got 13 more minutes on the clock.
I think that's plenty of time for this matchup.
Might be the first match that goes to time today, is what I was going to say.
Perhaps. I think it depends if Zacchaeus goes first or second. I think if he goes second, then the game is normally just decided on his turn. But if he goes first, then he will have at least one. Well, it can be a fairly long turn 1 for Pendulum. So it might be that it goes on too long and we see a time.
All right.
I've not seen who's pointed to who, or if anyone's done any pointing. I'm seeing a field breaker, which might mean that he's chosen to go second.
What is a field breaker for those of us who are...
I think maybe it's actually called Magical Mid-Breaker Field, I think is the full name, but I always get confused with it. So you can only activate it at the start of your main phase 1, and it prevents... during each player's main phase 1, I think it prevents the opponent from targeting or destroying their cards with any other cards.
Okay. I thought at first it was like a term, as in this is something that breaks your board. It's
no,
a field breaker.
I was talking about a specific card.
Exactly.
So that prevents...
Magical Mid-Breaker Field. Is that what you said?
Magical Mid-Breaker Field, indeed.
Okay, so now
it's quite an old card that's seen a resurgence in plays as one of those things to stop your opponent from stopping you. A bit like Called by the Grave.
A bit like Cold Wave.
A bit like Cold Wave, indeed.
Cold Wave and Called by the Grave almost sound the same.
Or maybe like Neospatian Aquadolphin as well. One of those, like, I'm going to counter your counters and then kill you.
One of those, I win the European Championship with it.
Indeed.
It's a pretty good card. It won it all by itself.
So there is a slight issue with Mid-Breaker Field, which is that... Oh, there's the Denko Sekka.
Whoa!
And we can hear the cheers.
Yeah, finally the crowd just woke up.
I think if you're Zacchaeus here, you're going to activate that Pendulum Call and just pray that there is no Ash.
Yeah, you can see Pascal Kim, he's not super happy about this, to make an understatement.
And if there is no Ash, then you're almost certainly expecting an OTK.
Almost certainly. So Zacchaeus Show has an opening, courtesy of his Denko Sekka.
Denko Sekka being a card.
Shutting, exactly, it is a card, I told you.
It is a card.
Sometimes less is more.
Less is more.
So you just stop after Denko Sekka is a card and we're good. We got a full sentence.
I mean, Denko Sekka is so nasty because your opponent still has to be able to find a way to kill it on the turn after.
Yeah.
If they want to use any of their leftover cards.
All right, so he can go crazy. How crazy can he go?
What are the other cards in his hand? So what...
You got a Harmonizing Magician, Oath Dragon Magician, Chronograph,
fully
Sorcerer.
aware as to whether Pendulum have got a very efficient way of getting rid of the Sky Striker extra deck monster without triggering Ray, because that would be ideal. Is to get rid of the is to get rid of the Shizuku without triggering the Ray back and make it that much easier to attack the game. And I don't know. I mean, there probably is something in the extra deck which does that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But as for what it is, maybe there isn't anything. Maybe he just has to be able to deal with the fact that there's going to be... So it basically just puts one more blocker on the field, right, if you activate... But he has got the... You know, Shizuku does give him an extra zone as well. So that Chronograph Sorcerer is just going to come back.
It's going to be interesting to see this.
I'm fully expecting this to end in an OTK from Zacchaeus at this point, though.
It's interesting that the chat is just repeating over and over again, stick to the plan, stick to the plan.
Stick to the game plan, yeah, that was a term popularized by an American player who particularly enjoyed pendulums. Although stick to the game plan did refer to summoning 3 Electromites, which is no longer the game plan.
No longer.
Because it will result in you being kicked out from the tournament.
Yeah, it's not the strongest plan.
You're only
anymore.
allowed 1.
But then again,
try and use more than one. That's
we have
against
seen
the
somebody
rules.
with a hero lives in his deck and no targets.
Indeed, but that is not against the rules.
That's not that's true, unless he tries to.
I mean, activating it is against the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
However, that's it's you know, it's less obviously something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah,
it's more of a mistake.
All right.
So yeah, I think it's just sort of Zacchaeus to pick his favourite way of OTKing his opponent at this point.
That's too early for that.
If I'm
the fat lady hasn't started singing yet.
To be honest, Ash. So I mentioned that he wants to activate this Pendulum Call and hope it doesn't get ashed. But Ash is not a card you expect to see because it's not actually very strong against Pendulum. So it's one of those cards you always expect to see game 1 because it's such a popular main deck card. Over games 2 and 3, people often side it out.
Right. And also, there is no interaction that Pascal has.
No, so the Ray is going to come back from the graveyard, but that's it. And the Supreme King Dark Rebellion Dragon does a lot of damage, so I'm pretty sure this is a game for Zacchaeus.
All right, let's see.
So it reduces the opponent's monster to 0 attack, and then gains the amount of attack, so I think it's just going to swing for 4,000. And then the Ray's going to come back, but then Zacchaeus has got 4 other monsters on the field, so between them I think they're going to attack for more than 4,000.
Yeah, Pascal is just reading the card.
He's just reading the card. I mean, it's a card that doesn't come up that much, so it might be one that you have to double check.
But look at the conviction in Zacchaeus' face.
I think he knows.
Yeah, he's looking like somebody that's...
I think he knows.
He's either about to win a duel or mug you. In this case, it is winning a duel. And there he goes. That's a bit of applause from the audience, who is like giving him credit for that Denko Sekka drop. It was basically like the Yu-Gi-Oh version of a mic drop. That's the Denko Sekka.
The Denko Sekka. Yeah, Denko Sekka has been one of these very powerful cards.
We're going to talk about that in our post-match analysis. So finally it paid out to pay close attention to those side decks. We talked about Denko Sekka, mentioned it, highlighted it as a card that could make a difference. You were saying between games 1 and 2, I'm surprised he didn't side it in, or it didn't look like he was siding it in, if I remember correctly.
Well, we didn't know because
we didn't know.
Denko Sekka is definitely a card you want going second.
Yeah.
And if you're, I mean, nowadays you just don't know all the time whether your opponent's going to choose to go first or second, especially against Sky Striker, which is very capable of having a lot of hand traps and going second, as he chose to do.
Did he want to hold it back for the possible third game?
No, I mean,
not really.
I just don't think it's a card you want to risk having in your deck going first, because Pendulum is notorious for needing all of its cards to be combo pieces, and Denko Sekka is not a combo piece.
No, it's not.
So if you go first and you have Denko Sekka, you have only 4 cards, whereas if you go second, you have 5 cards and the Denko.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the requirement just to try and attack for game, just try and like put 8,000 damage on the board, is actually far less than to assemble a good turn 1 combo.
Right.
So you want to be doing more with less cards, which is much harder. So that's why it's much better going second.
Yeah, so there you had it. Perfect analysis by our friend Tom today. Getting better and better round after round. Anything else that we need to point out? We did say that both of these deck lists were fairly standard. The 3 Mind Crush by Pascal were...
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say the Pendulum deck is standard. I would just say it looks very much... The main deck just looks like it used to.
That's
but I don't think there is a standard Pendulum deck anymore. Now that people might want to incorporate some different cards into their main deck in order... Because you can't do the same combos that you used to.
Pendulum exists in the Chaos Zone
at the moment. It does. But no, the Sky Striker deck is a very standard-looking Sky Striker deck to me.
Okay, well, we did see one tiny little thing that we mentioned. He did show the Mind Crush when he lost the first game. Maybe to throw his opponent off track because he was about to side them out.
I guess he'd side them out. I don't think your opponent shows you too many cards in the Pendulum. So a lot of decks...
Do you play any differently when you know your opponent has a Mind Crush? Or could have a Mind Crush? Sometimes you do.
Yeah, sometimes. I don't think he would have thought about it that much. It's the sort of thing you're just like, yeah, just scoop and then you show him
he might just be a really nice guy and be like, oh, okay, let's go to the next game. And not really thinking about what he's doing exactly in that moment. However, both of these guys guaranteed a spot in day number 2. One of them is undefeated, the other guy is 7-1. So pretty much as close as you can get to a perfect record.
Indeed.
So we're going to see them again tomorrow, and very good chance that one of them is even going to advance to the top 64. All right, guys. You're going to hear some more analysis, some more breakdown. Luke and Matt are going to run us through those 3 little duels that took the entire round for the first time ever today, because we didn't really go to time so far. So let's hear it from those 2 guys.
Thank you very much, Ollie. And we are with Zeki, I've been told he likes to be called.
Zeki, congratulations on taking that down 2-1.
Thank you.
So when you sat down for that match, we were having a bit of a talk before we started this segment, and you built your deck specifically to beat Sky Strikers.
Yeah, that's right. I was previously playing Goki, but
come in a bit closer.
I was previously playing Goki, and it just was matchup wasn't good enough, so I decided on Pendulums.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you got a pretty decent tournament history behind you to back up this win as well. So that's pretty good. You have a 66% win rate last season.
66.
That's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of people get disappointed with their win rates because they think like it should be like 80, 90. No one has that win rate.
It's like Marcello
did that once. Yeah, Marcello and Luke Parks. That's it. So 66 is pretty good. Like if you think the average win rate is 50%, then 60, like anything over 60 is pretty good.
It's good.
Yeah. So is there any other reason why you decided to play your deck? You a particular fan of Pendulum, or?
I played Pendulums for ages. It's always on and off for me. I always play it and loot, and then, like, I've been playing it since it came out originally. It just seems like such a powerful mechanic, and even with Electromite at 1, it still has crazy potential, and like no one plays ogres and stuff like that anymore. So it always goes through.
I see. So you're planning to take advantage on the fact that your deck's going largely uncontested in people's side decks, like things like anti-spell fragrances have all come out, unending nightmares, all those sort of things that have been stripped out. But as people prepare for the Sky Striker matchup, you think that's what most people are preparing for this weekend?
Yeah, everyone is prepared for the Sky Striker matchup, and that's why like cards like Pendulum Call was super strong because of Twin Twisters, etc.
Yeah. Have you been watching plenty of Finn Bakewell's videos of coverage? Yeah?
Yeah.
That would have been a really bad question if you'd have been like, no, I didn't watch any.
Who's that guy?
Who's that guy? Yeah, who's that?
I heard of a game plan.
What
no,
do you
we're not talking about that guy. We're not allowed to talk about that guy.
What do you think about Finn? Playing Pendulum?
He's been playing Pendulums. He's been doing well with it for ages. He's a great player with Pendulums.
Yeah. He's the best Pendulum player I've ever seen.
You can't say that when we have a Pendulum player EXO on the stage, Luke. That's not cool, man.
I bet you would say the same, right?
Yeah, he was a great player,
Yeah.
He knows when to play it.
Yeah.
So going through those games, like you seem very, very confident going into there. Game 1, your entire field almost got picked apart completely, and then you just went, oh, I could just Pendulum summon again, and I got you.
Yeah.
Was there any point in that game where you were actually worried, or did you know that was going to happen?
So the opening hand is like you rely on Harmonizer Magician quite more, and if you don't have access to Harmonizer Magician, your board comes up underwhelming, and it usually end up just like resources, and then make a small board that they'll struggle to break, and then you can come back with a full like OTK.
Yeah, get them on the counter swing. Because like game 2, we saw something very similar again, except the multi-roll got to load all the bases on that. So he picked apart the field, then had like 4 other cards.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts going on to that? Because you went for the Karen Gorgon again, which got shut down by the multi-roll.
Yeah, multi-roll is like the main issue. That's why it's always the first negate. You have to negate it, otherwise there's no point of it anymore. But yeah, Kana Gorgon just makes it, without multi-roll, they cannot like out the board. It's really a big struggle.
Ken Gorgon is definitely like one of my favorite Exceed monsters. When it came out, it was just amazing.
He was super underrated, I think, initially.
Actually, good point. I don't know why I even said that. When it came out, it was really bad because it was artifact format, and Moraltac was just able to clean it real easy. But then I think, I'm trying to remember what format it was afterwards, but it suddenly became really relevant, like just accidentally. People were playing it in Evil Swarm or something, or some kind of rank 4 deck. But yeah, it was really good, and it's huge as well. It's one of the bigger rank 4 monsters. It's really powerful.
My notes for your final game was just Denko Seka and a lot of exclamation marks followed by smack.
Yeah, Denko Seka is like, it's the MVP of the weekend. It's just, they can't play around it either. There's no way to do it.
Yeah.
You just normal summon it, and then it's just turns off the whole Sky Striker board, and it's really easy to OTK.
What do you think is your worst matchup for this weekend?
True Draco is an Outergeist. They're scary decks. If they win the dice roll and they're setting up anti-spells and multiple floodgates, it's really difficult, but if I win the dice roll, then it should be okay.
Okay, well, I can tell you, so of the players who have played Pendulum, against True Draco, it's currently up 52% win rate.
In favour of True Draco?
In favour of Pendulum.
Oh, Pendulum. Wow, 2% favoured in that matchup.
That's pretty good. Let's see, is there any really bad ones? No, to be honest, Pendulum's looking pretty good. Oh, Altergeist. It's got a 20% win rate against Altergeist.
So walk us why is the Pendulum deck really bad against Altergeist? So like for this, how many times has that match occurred?
Altergeist, we've had 27 games, so not all that many, just because there's not that many Pendulum players, but still that's a reasonable number, right? 27 games is more than you would play in this tournament. So, why do you think that?
I think it's mostly because people make the incorrect boards against them. Like you don't want to make XYZs. Like how you win that game is it's a resource game. You just want, if you have 5 monsters on board, they can't deal with 5 monsters, and then your next turn's really strong.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's super interesting. So basically your suggestion is there the Pendulum players are approaching the matchup wrong, which is why the results are going in favour of the Altergeist, and it should be, I just need to go wide, lots of guys, and that'll get me there.
Initially I was making Tornado Narutos and
trying to grind directly.
Like big negates and stuff, and then Melisix is a big problematic card. It just removes the whole board.
Yeah. So we just saw that we saw you beat Sky Striker. However, the win rate right now for Pendulum is only 34% against Sky Striker.
And that was
The
your
pure
favourite
version.
matchup as well.
My favourite matchup.
You're taking this completely backwards.
Yeah, well, this could mean that you're playing a different build of Pendulum to the other ones. That's something that I can't take into account here. So that's pretty interesting, though, right? That
It is,
you may have built it, or you may just get out the correct boards or something.
Might have been getting lucky as well. I don't know.
That's possible. What do you think is the big reasons why some other players may not be doing so well against Sky Striker Pure?
I just believe they could be setting up the wrong boards, going for the wrong stuff. Like, you don't want to resource Carnagorgon Vortex is usually enough.
Okay.
Or Carnagorgon Naruto is usually enough.
Okay, so you think that you just think that you've kind of cracked what you need against those matchups?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, good.
That's a good shout, man. Do you have anybody you want to give a shout out to back home while we've got you up here and the thousands of people watching you? Not to make you nervous at all.
Before he gives a shout out, we got plenty of people in the audience who have been trying to distract him during his interview.
I've not actually been looking.
No,
I'm
he's
sorry.
been doing real good. He's been doing real good. So yeah,
The
please.
biggest shout out games, Tier 0 games. It's just my team. Ollie Hickey helps me out so much. He helps me with all cards. He's one of the nicest people, and yeah, thanks
Awesome.
a lot to him.
All right, great.
Sounds like a top man.
Yeah. So that was it. We had another heckle. I think it was from Ollie. And that's it for this round. So we're going to be right back with our final round of Swiss here at the 200th YCS for Europe. See you guys soon.